Folks, absolutely jam-packed episode of Carving Up Live on tap for you guys tonight. The day before the NFL draft, we're going to actually end the show with Mock Draft 5.0, how I think this draft will lay out. It's the last mock draft that I'm bringing to the table. Stay tuned till the end of today's episode. But before that, lots of NBA playoffs. LeBron James, for the second straight game, leading the Lakers to a playoff win, this time over the KD-led Houston Rockets, who are not covering themselves in glory whatsoever. The king is. We'll get to that. Also get to Victor Wembanyama going into concussion protocol. What's his status? How are the Spurs looking? They blew a 14-point lead last night to Portland. I think this could be a big-time crossroads moment for this franchise in terms of their ability to win a championship this year. Get to that. The Celtics lost last night to the Sixers, and it means absolutely, positively nothing for Boston. For Philadelphia, I'll explain what they need to do as it pertains to their future. Rudy Gobert's kind of shutting down Nikola Jokic. That's surprising, and plenty more NBA playoff reaction. So we got a ton to get into on tonight's episode of Carving Up Live. So let's drop the beat, baby. Here we go. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on Facebook, X, Twitch, and on Instagram. I am Bryson Carver. Again, you heard it in the open right there, but an absolutely stacked episode of Carving Up Live. Tons of NBA playoffs to get into. And again, I'm going to say what I said on Monday. This is truly, without a shadow of a doubt, one of my favorite weeks of the entire sports calendar. You got NBA playoffs out the wazoo. You got NFL draft for 3 straight days. We got plenty of coverage, a lot, where that came from. Tons of announcements regarding our draft coverage on the grid, so stay tuned for that. Likely after our first segment, really after every segment from here on out. Tons to get in today's show. My final mock draft 5.0. This is it. This is the one that I want y'all to hold me to. How accurate I am, I'll be honest. Last year's mock draft, I think I had Shedeur Sanders going 3rd to the Giants. Yikes. That's kind of a good representation of how bad it was a year ago. Hopefully it's going to be better in 2026, so we'll see how that plays itself out. But very, very excited for today's show. But first, I can't believe that I'm saying this. I don't think any of us can believe that this is a reality. But without Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, who combined are averaging about 56 points a game between the two of them, Lakers are missing that in their lineup. Despite the fact that the Houston Rockets had Kevin Durant in their lineup last night, more on KD and Houston later in the segment, and despite being 4.5-point favorites on the road, the Lakers are up 2-0 in the series with the Game 2 win, and it was led, once again, just as it was in Game 1, albeit in somewhat of a different way than Game 1, by LeBron James. Show what Bron did in Game 2 against the Houston Rockets. 28, 8, and 7. Wasn't terribly efficient from the field. 2 for 5. He was 8 for 20 from the field for those listening. 2 of 5 from 3, 10 of 14 from the free throw line. So the 14 free throw attempts shows you he's very, very aggressive. Understood that, yeah, I got to be able to get myself involved. Obviously, Marcus Smart had 25. Luke Kennard, I believe, had 23. So back-to-back 20-point games from Kennard. But just watching this game, and again, I want to make abundantly clear when I say this, because then I want to show a LeBron stat that is mind-blowing. Luka Doncic today, healthy that is an objectively better player than LeBron. He is. He's been first-team All-NBA, 5 of the last 7, or 4 of the last 6, 5 of the last 7 years. Bron hasn't been first-team All-NBA since like 2020. Like they're in different stages of their career. But there is nobody currently playing in the NBA, and I'm talking Jokic, I'm talking Shea, I'm talking anybody who serves. Shea is obviously more the primary ball handler than Jokic is, but Jokic averages double figures in assists a night. I don't think there's a single player currently playing in the NBA in 2026 in a playoff game that I want running my offense more than that guy who wears number 23, who's in year 23, age 41, in LeBron James. Is that if you watch how you saw a lot in Game 1, you saw a ton in Game 2, especially in the second half. LeBron recognizes, okay, it's a tight game at the half. Lakers got momentum. He says, what I'm going to do? Like, Kevin Durant's struggling. Our double teams are really bothering him. Again, more on Houston later. So what am I going to do? KD's their best player. Alperen Şengün's their second best player. And Şengün could be a little bit inconsistent offensively, but he's super valuable to that basketball team. On the offensive end. On the defensive end, to put it mildly, he's a cone. He's a terrible defender. What does LeBron James do? I mean, over and over. It reminds me a little bit of that Game 7 of the Finals 2016. Worst memory of my basketball life as a Warriors fan. There was like 3 straight possessions in which LeBron had, I think he had Draymond Green on. It was either Draymond or Iggy on him. And he called for a pick and roll to get Festus Ezeli on him. And it's the fourth quarter of the game. Love you, Festus, but big time mismatch. 3 strike times. One time, Braun got fouled on a 3, hit his free throws. The next time he hit a 3, and then the next time I think he ended up missing the shot. But just abusing Festus Ezeli in the pick and roll as the defensive liability on the perimeter that he was. In this game last night, he's putting Alperen Sengun in the pick and roll over and over and over again with DeAndre Ayton. He's lost. He doesn't know where he's going. Whether it's bad communication by his teammates, whatever it is, like DeAndre Ayton would get a dunk, LeBron would get to the basket, all alone by himself, like just abusing it. Sengun on defense over and over and over, playing the game, manipulating the game with his mind. And I think it is, listen, maybe I'm wrong. Braun, I think, is coming back next year in the NBA. I don't think he's coming back to the Lakers. I think he sort of mentioned it after game 1, or before and after game 1, like, yeah, I'm kind of more comfortable in this role than playing off the ball and kind of being, for all intents and purposes, a spectator on the offensive end of the floor when Luka Doncic, the ball-dominant player he is. Luka's an all-time great offensive player, but doesn't necessarily make other great on-ball players, great around him, whether it be LeBron James or anybody else. And so, Jalen Brunson, by the way, in Dallas, it was the same thing. LeBron's more comfortable in this role running the offense. That's why I'd love to see him in Golden State. If LeBron's running the point in Golden State for all, the point forward basically, and Steph's run off picks, oh my goodness. It wouldn't be as good as if those two teamed up in like 2022, but still pretty good. But I saw this too, and it goes to, people are going to think I'm glazing LeBron. I do not care. When you're talking about some of the all-time legends, not just as they get older, but when they're still playing at an elite level, despite getting older. I used to do this with Tom Brady. I'm like, how is Tom Brady in the MVP discussion at age, I think he was 44 at the time, his second to last year in the league? It doesn't make sense. Braun's not quite in that category. He's not an MVP candidate. But LeBron had, we showed you 28, 8, and 7 last night. 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. How many of those playoff games has LeBron James had? Well, we actually have the graphic for you. Here you go. A lot. Michael Jordan's in third place, 25, 5, and 5 playoff games. Michael Jordan's in third with 73. LeBron, before turning 30, has 75. LeBron, after 30, has 80. Like, it is a level of longevity we have never seen in American team sports outside of Tom Brady. LeBron in his career, do the quick math right there, 155. 25, 5, and 5 playoff games. Michael Jordan, 73. This isn't to diss Jordan. This is to say LeBron is, even at year 23, age 41, can still find ways to impact the game in some form or fashion. That's what the great winning players do. LeBron recognized what he had to do. Again, he 8 for 20. He wasn't terribly efficient, but he's like, you know what? I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to get to the line. I'm going to, again, abuse Sengun in the pick and roll with DeAndre Ayton and get Houston's defense completely discombobulated because we're on the defensive end. The double teams are bothering KD. I mean, it is, there's no other word to use, but kind of inexplicable that this is a 2-0 Lakers lead. And I'm not going to go so far as others who have said, oh, the series is over and Houston's dead in the water. I won't go there. Here's what I do know. And I mentioned this after game 1. I said, if history repeats itself, or if we're going to judge history as, as applicable to the present, LeBron James in his career, undefeated if he has a 2 or more game lead in a 7-game series. So if it's 2-0, 3-1, it's over. It's a wrap. Now, I guess now would be the best time than ever because, okay, maybe KD's got his legs underneath him. Rockets coming back home. They could even up the series. We got a whole different ball game. But if you're the Lakers, just get a split because Bron's not blowing a 3-1 lead. That's not happening. If you get a split in Houston, it's 3-1, then the series is over. If the Lakers win game 3, series is obviously over because no one's ever come back from 3-0, and God knows this Rockets team ain't going to be the one that breaks that. And so shifting to Houston, I'm just... I'm blown away. And I want to say this in advance. I love Kevin Durant. Freaking love the guy. He's a 2-time finals MVP with my team, the Golden State Warriors. I've told the story a million times. I remember distinctly where I was when it happened, July 4th, 2016. when it was announced that KD had signed with the Warriors. I think I turned on a Cowherd show and Nick Wright was hosting, and you saw the lower third. KD announced this he'll sign with the Warriors, and I'm going crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to be unbeatable. And that was kind of true when KD was healthy. He is, I've said over and over, the most unstoppable, or I shouldn't say this. I haven't said this. I've said he's the most gifted one-on-one scorer I've ever seen. Ever. He has one major flaw in his game. Is that, and they can be one and the same, physicality and double teams really bother him. And when I was watching that game last night, and it was kind of ironic, because one of the orchestrators in executing the Lakers game plan as well as they did was Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart was on the Boston Celtics in 2022 in what I think was one of the low points of KD's playoff career. 2022 round one against Boston. Now the Celtics were the 2 seed that year. Celtics had never been to a finals with that group, with Tatum, Brown, and company. Ime Udoka was the coach. And KD was abysmal. KD was struggling with the double teams. It's why I remember distinctly doing this segment 4 years ago. I think it was right before the 22 finals, Warriors-Celtics. And Draymond Green, on his newly founded podcast, caught a lot of flack for saying that, KD was amazing. Other teams were focused on Steph. Other teams were double teaming Steph. Now you could say, well, I mean, KD still won Finals MVP. He was averaging, 30 a game or so in those series. But if other teams had doubled Kevin, maybe the result would have been a little bit better. They feared Steph more. And also, Steph can deal with the double team. Braun can deal with the double team and pass that. There was a couple times the Rockets there was a possession. I was mentioning LeBron abusing Şengün in the pick and roll. Right after that, Houston came up and doubled LeBron in the pick and roll, threw a pass far corner for an open 3-point shot. Like he's going to make the right play. Steph is going to find somebody open. That's always been a hole in KD's game. And it resulted in a pretty brutal performance. We can show you the numbers for Kevin Durant. So yeah, he had 23 points and 12 shots. He's always going to be efficient. 1 of 4 from 3 is not great. 8 for 9 from the line is. 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 9 turnovers. And it felt like watching the game, it was like 12. I mean, it was brutal to watch Kevin Durant last night. And, JJ Redick's just going to keep throwing that strategy out there until Houston adjusts, which Ime Udoka has shown an inability to do that over the course of his playoff career as a coach. See Boston 2022, see Houston last year against Golden State. His inability to adjust as a coach has been on display multiple times over. Stars tend to go off on him, be it Giannis in 2022, Jimmy Butler, Steph, and then Steph last year, and now LeBron. Stars kind of tend to go crazy against Ime Udoka's defense, yet I'm told he's this defensive mastermind coach. I've yet to see that take its shape. Again, I'm not calling Houston dead in the water. I'm not saying, their season's over and what have you. What I am saying is we're 18 years in. Like, Katie's a legend, but we're 18 years in. Or 19 years in. And he's never been able to adjust to this game plan. Physicality, double teams. I mean, when watching that game, my brain immediately went back to 2022 first round against the Nets. When he was with the Nets against the Celtics. And Boston just doubled him every time, whether it was on a pick and roll, whether it was someone would leave, strong side help, come and double team Kevin Durant. Like that was the strategy, and that was what bothered him. And so it's KD talked about it after the game, and then we'll play what LeBron said, but it was a brutal watch, and this Houston team is just kind of coming apart before our eyes. Here's what Kevin Durant had to say about the double teams.
They started double teaming you a little bit more in the second half, getting the ball out of your hands. How can your teammates take advantage of that?
I mean, they started doubling me from possession one, man. Like, I think I got to be better at not putting my teammates in bad positions when I swing that ball. Sometimes I could beat the double, get downhill, make the shot a little easier for them. Shoot the ball. I mean, when two to three people on me, I shoot the ball, we can get offensive rebound. So I'm trying to make passes. I'm trying to make the correct, swing the ball sometimes, but I feel like I got to shoot more of those and put my teammates in better position.
And the thing, too, with Kevin Durant is, so many times in life, if we have a flaw, but it doesn't really hurt us in the long run because someone else covers for it, whether it be in our families, whether it be our colleagues, whatever, if someone else can kind of take care of that for you, Why change? For all his flaws, and they are many, I've been critical of him over the course of career. Like the guy, critical of the player. Russell Westbrook is a natural point guard. I mean, he is. People view him as more of a two guard. He's a point guard. Steph Curry and Draymond Green, by the way, ran the Warriors offense. James Harden in Brooklyn ran the Nets offense. Chris Paul ran the Suns. When did the Suns offense, when did the Suns in general kind of take a downturn with Kevin Durant? When Chris Paul got traded for Bradley Beal. Like Devin Booker can handle the ball. He's shown an ability to be a good passer, especially again, out of double teams. But if there's not a true point guard, and again, this I said it opening night when the Rockets lost, I think a close game in overtime against the defending champion Thunder. I said they can't, as talented as this roster is, as much young guns they've got, they don't have a point guard. Fred VanVleet getting hurt, blowing his ACL in September, that was it. And the results are showing for Kevin Durant. This is what LeBron James had to say about the job not being finished, kind of, evoking Kobe Bryant to a certain degree. This is what he said about going up 2-0 on the Houston Rockets.
This group entered the series as huge underdogs. You talk about how you lost two huge horses. What do you think of this group going up 2-0 in the series?
It means nothing. The series is not won until you win four. It's the first of four. But our only mindset is game 3. The game is always played in between the lines, and that's all that matters. We have an opportunity to play the next one. And that's all you can ask for. We're in the postseason, and to have an opportunity to play another playoff game, we should be excited about that. But we also should make sure we take care of our bodies too. That was a hard-fought game, and we got tomorrow, and we got to fly down to Houston on Thursday and get ready to play on Friday. So,
I mean, that's the mark of a great leader. Like, hey, we got a long way to go. Halfway home. Again, the good news is for the Lakers, if they were to lose the next 2 in Houston, it's like, okay, we still have home court. Now, if they lose game 5, they're in trouble. But I don't see them losing 3 straight and then being on the brink of elimination in a game 6. To be frank, it's not even that I think that much about this Lakers team. I've said, I picked Houston, as I think most people did. But I said, whoever wins the series is getting dog-walked by Oklahoma City. The Lakers, because they're just not talented enough and they're bad defensively, that's going to kill them against Oklahoma City. And then as for the Houston Rockets, they're more talented on paper than the Lakers, but coaching advantage, stark. The connective tissue of the locker room seems to be just almost non-existent. And like that, I mean, that's another reason, like, I think Lakers should win the series. This point is like, are the Rockets resilient enough to pull this off? I don't see it. I don't see it from their coach. I don't see it from their best player, second best player. The best players beyond that are mostly young guys. They're in bad shape. Here's a young team that's not in bad shape, but it could get a little dicey, is the San Antonio Spurs, who I picked back in February. Once it was apparent that my Warriors were dead in the water, Jimmy Blue's ACL, Steph got hurt. I was like, I'm okay, Warriors can't win. So I'm picking the Spurs. Pick the Spurs to win the title. And felt good about that after game 1. Wemby goes crazy. We did the numbers on the show. It was the best debut by a San Antonio Spur ever in a playoff game, better than Duncan, David Robinson, George Gervin, Tony Parker. You have it. And then early on in game 2, he suffers. I mean, honestly, I think you can call it a freak injury. Like I've seen guys bang their head on the court, like the back of their head hitting the court, and they're kind of dazed and they go to concussion protocol. Victor Wembanyama falls awkwardly forward and then just goes like almost mouth/cheek first onto the hardwood and is dazed. He ends up running to the locker room, which again, was he all the way there? Did he know where he was at? Like it might have been one of those situations. Ruled out for the game, and he's in concussion protocol. And so look for Wemby, and I've said this many times, when guys will fall to the floor or like fall weird on like their wrist, or some guys have got hurt. Steph Curry's injured his butt before falling awkwardly on the court. In the case of Wemby, now he falls on his face, basically. I've said this, that NBA courts are not like, the Y, or not like your regular, gym where you play rec league ball. Like that's just it. And I say that in that it has no give. The floor has no give. They're like, if you watch how they put together these courts, it's like puzzle pieces almost. When you watch from like the aerial angle, these stop motion videos, how they put the courts together, there's no give whatsoever. Like below it is like concrete. In some cases, if they play hockey there, like in LA, where the LA Kings play, there's ice beneath the court. So there's no give. So it hurts. As for the Spurs, because Wemby's in concussion protocol, they lost game 2. They had a 14-point lead with 8.5 minutes to go in game 2, and they lost in large part because a guy I really liked out of college, there were some folks who thought he'd be better than Wemby in his draft, which was to me outrageous. But I thought he was the second best player in his draft. Wemby was the best. Brandon Miller looks like he's been the second best. Scoot Henderson, shout out to him. I loved him out, coming out of, I believe, the G League. He had 31 points. Most points he scored in like over 400 days or something. 11 of 17 for the field, 5 of 9 from 3, 4 of 6 from the free throw line. He looked great. It's the best game he's had as a pro in the NBA. And Portland, we talked about in the show, has a very, very bright future. And they've got the perfect mix of great young players, Denny Advia and Scoot Henderson and Klingon, but they've also got a good mix of veterans. Robert Williams, Drew Holiday, Damian Lillard's going to come back next year. Portland's a team to kind of watch out for to continue to rise. Their ownership appears to be absurdly cheap, like with the t-shirt thing. Like, geez, man, spend some money. And by the way, sign Tiago Splitter to be your coach, for crying out loud. I digress. It's 1-1 now, right? Portland came back, tied the series. If you look at the schedule moving forward, for this series, game 3 isn't until Friday. Game 4 is on Sunday. It feels, I would almost, and I would never do this previously, the Spurs are kind of known for having one of the best medical staffs. I would have some questions if Wemby's on the court in game 3. Like, did he clear concussion protocol that quickly? Game 4 feels more realistic. Game 5, I'd be stunned if he's not back by game 5, which, by the way, would be on Tuesday. So about 6 days from now, in a week, exactly a week post game 2, Wemby should be ready to go for that. But this feels like kind of a crossroads moment for the San Antonio Spurs. It's a young team, young coach, first time, that Mitch Johnson's coached in the playoffs. A lot of expectations. Okay, we want to see it get to the conference finals. You're going to have a big test. In theory, we'll get to this series later against Denver in the second round, potentially Jokic versus Wemby. Again, fingers crossed we get that. I really want to see that for a 7-game series. But now it's kind of the opportunity. Yeah, you lose Wemby in this game. You kind of lose focus, some bad turnovers, bad shot selection, and some of it good defense by Portland in the fourth quarter to blow that 14-point lead. This is kind of the opportunity for those younger Spurs players, for the Vassell's, for the Stephon Castles, and even for the vets like Luke Cornett, De'Aaron Fox, Harrison Barnes, to kind of say, hey, bring the guys in. We're good. Worst case scenario, we get a split in Portland. It's 2-2. We got home court back. Like, at this point, I think the series, I think the Spurs probably win game 3. Blazers win 4, assuming Wemby isn't back. And then the Spurs win the final 2 and win this series in 6. Which I had this being a gentleman's sweep. Again, I assumed Wemby was going to be out there. But this will kind of be that moment. I remember this team didn't win the finals, but there was a moment with the Dallas Mavericks back in 2022, another Texas basketball team. Luka Doncic got hurt right, I think it was game 82, right before the playoffs started. And that was kind of the first, Jalen Brunson, where has this been? And then he ends up going to the Knicks. They didn't have Luka for half of the first round against Utah. Still ended up winning the series. Luka ended up coming back, but I think at that point, the Mavs were up 2-1 by the time he returned. That team ended up going to the conference finals. So those role players, those other guys, were kind of battle-tested and trusted in their own abilities beyond just their best player. This is kind of that similar moment for the Spurs team. Again, very young. It's been discussed as one of the drawbacks of, hey, can the Spurs win is, they're too young. Like they're not quite there, emotionally in terms of their timeline to be able to win a championship. But this will be kind of a good moment for those other guys to be able to say, hey, Wemby was out. We went on the road and won at least 1, maybe 2, best case scenario, road games in Portland against a good young team that played okay in game 1, played great in the fourth quarter of game 2. And I think it would also go to show, again, Mitch Johnson, their young head coach, it kind of showed an ability for him to say, hey, maybe the morale was kind of low after game 2. We lost Wemby and we lost the game, picked our team up off the mat, and we rebounded with a game 3 win in Portland. Like, that would show to me a lot about him because, as I've said, I've quoted Steve Kerr, and I think Steve Kerr has quoted Greg Popovich on this, the legendary Spurs coach, is that 10% of NBA coaching, X's and O's, 90% managing personalities, making sure everybody's in the right headspace. Well, this is kind of that opportunity. This is a young team. This is their first bit of playoff adversity. This is a team they're better than. Even without Wemby, I think they're better than the Portland Trailblazers. How are you going to respond? And if they end up responding well, I think that to me further reinforces the idea, yeah, this team can go all the way. Once they get the big 7'3" guy back who's an alien, who's unlike anything we've ever seen playing basketball, maybe they're ready to go on a run by that point. So that would show me a lot about this basketball team. Before we go to break, and we're going to be doing this throughout the show, just a bit of a program update. So we do this every year on the grid. Tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific time, go and put up the graphic. The Grid Network 2026 live draft reaction show. Myself, you can see me on the right side of the screen. My compadre, Mike Guido, co-founder of the Grid Network. Myself, Mike, and potentially other guests as well. We will be reacting to night one of the NFL draft live as it happens. We'll be going on 30 minutes prior to the official start of round one. So 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific time. Very, very excited about it. Myself, Guido, potentially other guests, breaking down every single pick. We hope to also be back for night 2 on Friday to break down rounds 2 and 3. EJ Savage might be able to join us for that. Hopefully he is. But again, listen, the draft's in Pittsburgh. Y'all know I'm a Steelers fan, so a lot of Pittsburgh references throughout the show. So very, very excited about it. Tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific time, the Grid Network's live draft reaction show. It's reacting to the first round. We'll be live in the Grid, possibly also be live on my YouTube channel as well. So subscribe to both. Subscribe to Carving Up with Bryce and Carver as well as the Grid Network on YouTube. We'll get it on multiple social media platforms. We'll advertise it throughout tonight, tomorrow. Tell your friends about it. Tell your family about it. We greatly, greatly appreciate if you showed up, if you chimed in the comments section. Let us know what you think about each and every draft pick and what's going on, what you think your team should do. It is always, every single year, it's one of my favorite nights of the year, not just from a sports perspective, but frankly from a content creation perspective, just in terms of, again, tons of engagement, live reaction. I always enjoy doing those types of things. So again, Grid Network 2026 NFL Draft live reaction show tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific time, live on the Grid Network, as well as on Carving It Up, the Carving Up YouTube channel as well. So we greatly appreciate if you guys stop by. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, stop me if you've heard this one before. The Boston Celtics lost a home playoff game they weren't supposed to. Wouldn't even think twice of it. Get to that as well as what I think Philadelphia should do with their future moving forward. Also get to what is turning into as entertaining a series I think we all, at least I thought it would be, between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets. Get to that. Rudy Gobert, been critical of him, but he's doing his job on Jokic. Get to that. Also, NFL Mock Draft 5.0. The last one, my official final mock draft, coming up in about 25 to 30 minutes from now. Stay tuned for Carving Up Live. We'll be back in just a minute. Back to Carving Up Live. Appreciate everybody for stopping by on a Wednesday. Another program update as well. So I mentioned, and I will again continue to mention throughout tonight, tune in tomorrow night. Grid Network Draft live reaction show for the NFL tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific time. We'll be live on YouTube, on X, possibly on Twitch as well, IG, basically any platform you could possibly imagine. We're going to try and pull it off to get on TikTok as well in some form or fashion. Again, generate as much of an audience as we possibly can. Tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific time, the Grid Network live draft reaction show. Tell your friends about it. Tell your family about it. I'm going to put together the stream tonight. So send, to be able to send the links out to everybody. We'd appreciate if you stop by. In addition to that, Carving Up Live's Friday episode will be on at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific time, as opposed to our normal time, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. So an hour early. So quitting time on, the East Coast and West Coast, if you're able to do so, watch the show for draft live reaction. Again, it'll be kind of condensed because we'll have to get to draft day 2 coverage on the grid, which we'll be doing, I assume, at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. But we'll give you updates on plenty of that. Essentially, the moral of the story is round 1 reaction tomorrow at 7:30. My show Friday at 5 Eastern, and then draft day 2 reaction will be at 7 Eastern on all platforms, YouTube, Twitch, X, the whole bit, Instagram, hopefully on TikTok. We'll see if we can be able to pull that off. So we greatly appreciate if everybody stopped by. It's going to be a blast. It's one of my favorite weeks, one of my favorite weekends of the year in sports. So we greatly appreciate if you guys stop by. All right, let's move back to the NBA playoffs because stop me if you've heard this one before, but the Boston Celtics lost a home playoff game that they weren't supposed to. That's been their thing for the last half decade almost. And for that reason, wouldn't think too much of it. They lost the 76ers last night, 111-98, after obviously blowing the doors off Philadelphia in game 1. And Tatum was unbelievable. And this game, Tatum kind of struggled. He almost had a triple-double. Brown was good. But the story of the night was the rookie, VJ Edgecombe. Show what he did against the Celtics in game 2. Unbelievable. 30 points, 10 rebounds. He had a couple steals, 12 of 20 from the field, 6 of 10 from three-point range. And by the way, had his first big-time playoff moment. He breaks down. We've got the video. Breaks down Peyton Pritchard off the dribble, step-back jumper, knocks it down, and then looks at the camera, has the presence of mind, pulls like an Aaron Rodgers, Michael Scott impression, looks at the camera, and gives it a little wink. So a great aura farming moment, if you will, from VJ Edgecombe, who has had an unbelievable season for Philly's first-team All-Rookie. Again, it's if not for the battle between Colin Knippel and Cooper Fly, like this guy was the best rookie in the NBA outside of those two. Very bright future. Let's start with Boston, though, first, then we'll go to Philly. For Boston, and this has been, it's a kind of a theme on our show for the last few years, really since the Celtics with this core started going to finals, competing for championships, is they have like at least one stinker a series almost every series they've been in since, again, they were legit championship contenders. We could show you the graphic. Like, here you go. Again, I know that's a lot there. We'll kind of go one by one. So they've played 14 playoff series since 2022, and in totality, they're 24-17 at home. So not bad. It's not like they have a losing record. The 2024 year was when they were at their best at home because they lost a playoff game in the first 2 rounds, then went undefeated at home in the conference finals and NBA finals to be able to win the championship. But this is kind of what they do. Their home records by series: 2-0, 2-2, 1-2, 1-2, 2-1, 2-2, 1-3, 2-1, 2-1, 2-0, 3-0. That's when they won the championship. Last year, 2-0, 1-2. Remember, they lost games 1 and 2 against the Knicks, blew big fourth quarter leads. And then thus far in this series, 1-1 record. They'll obviously have another playoff game at home. And we assume multiple because they're not going to blow this series, we imagine, to the Sixers. But this is kind of the thing you worry about for Boston is that, and I don't want to try and walk back what I said on Monday's show about Joe Mazzulla being a great coach. I say now what I said on Monday and what I said on Friday. If I had to vote, Joe Mazzulla would be my coach of the year. Given the fact that this Celtics team, I think their over-under for wins was like 41.5. Tatum was expected to be out for the year. Again, he made the miraculous comeback in March and has played excellent. But you lost Porzingis. You Drew Holiday gone. Al Horford gone. All of these key pieces for this basketball team to help you win a title 2 years ago, gone. Now you're relying obviously on Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, but a lot of pieces who haven't been that integral to to your success in the postseason. I think Mazzulla's done a great job. His Achilles heel, though, has been coaching his teams offensively to be incredibly over-reliant on the three-point shot. I mean, last night, I think they shot like 26%. Do we have the exact number? 26%. Yeah, 13 to 50, 26% from downtown. I remember distinctly, I think it was the first 2 games of last year's second round against the Knicks, which I think we're going to get Knicks Celtics in round 2, and I'm picking the Knicks this go around, is that I think Boston shot like 25 of 100, so exactly 25% on 100 attempts against the New York Knicks in their first 2 home games, lost both. And that's kind of the frustrating part about watching this team is you see the talent. You see Tatum, Brown, Peyton Pritchard obviously can shoot and can score off the dribble. He's gotten better at that. Derek White, I've always been a fan of Derek White. You see the talent on the floor. You see, again, Mazzulla's a great coach, has these guys ready to go, but it is an over-reliance. If you're not shooting the basketball well, get to the basket, get to the hole. Whether it's getting fouled, whether it's even, I know this is like a bad word. This is like almost like a curse word in the NBA nowadays. A mid-range shot. Jason Tatum can knock those down. Jaylen Brown's a good mid-range shooter. Like occasionally, if it's kind of a good get-out-of-jail card, teams are defending the rim and defending the three-point line as well as ever. So get to the mid-range. Just give your team some momentum offensively, because this was, if you didn't watch this game, this is a tie game with about 6 minutes to go. Tatum ends up missing a three, and then VJ Edgecombe hits or I think it was Edgecombe or Maxey. I think it was Maxey. Hit a couple of big shots right after that, and then Philly just kind of gradually pulled away from there. But if you're Boston, this isn't going to kill you against Philly, because again, even with Embiid, I think Boston's a better team. Without him, they're a far better team. They had to slip up at home. They kind of tend to do that, as we showed you in that graphic. But once you play bigger and better opponents, because again, I want to reiterate when I say this, I think the Knicks are going to be Atlanta. I know they had the stinker in game 2 in the fourth quarter. CJ McCollum is now the new Madison Square Garden villain, it would appear, which is odd because CJ is like the nicest guy in the world. I think the Knicks are going to get past Atlanta in 6. The Celtics, I'm still sticking with Celtics in 5. I think they're going to run the table from here and beat Philadelphia to advance. I think Celtics-Knicks is the Eastern Conference Finals. Whoever wins that is going to beat, we assume, Detroit or Cleveland. If recent history repeats itself, and what happened last year in the second round happens again, and Boston goes cold, and they won't stop shooting the three, and the Knicks are just, hey, what's the open shot? They've got the most clutch player in that series in theory, Jalen Brunson. They could find themselves in the exact same spot that they did a year ago, where it's 2-0 going back to New York, or 1-1, or maybe it's 3-1 going back to Boston for a game 5, and now you're in real trouble. There were concerning signs. Again, not like, oh my gosh, just, if picking the Celtics to win the East or the championship, you should be out on them. But it would appear that they haven't really learned from their playoff woes in the second round from a year ago, and that's concerning. Now, if they get hot, they're almost unstoppable. But we know if you live by the 3, die by the 3, you're not going to be hot all 4 wins of a 7-game playoff series. You can get away with it against Philly, but beyond that, it's going to be tough. For Philadelphia, and I don't even think this is, listen, I don't live in the Northeast where the media, sports media, can tend to be very demanding. Is that fair to say that the media, the fan base, Boston is intense, Philadelphia is intense, New York's intense? Like that's the way it is. But by the way, it's the passion of those cities is why we love sports. No one wants to see kind of passive, it is what it is. If we win, we win, lose. It is what it is. No, Philadelphia, Boston, New York live and die by their sports teams. So I don't know if this is like a controversial opinion in Sixers circles, but when you watch what VJ Edgecombe did last night, when you see what Tyrese Maxey has been doing for you over the last few years, Maxey's been their consistently best player. I know Embiid won MVP in 2023. Maxey's been their most consistent. You know what he's going to be doing on the floor. Not the most efficient, but he is a smaller guard who's not ridiculously athletic. He's going to give you 25 to 30 a night. That's your backcourt of the future. Again, Edgecombe, I think, is like 20, 21. Like, he's a kid. Maxey, I think, is in his mid-20s. Philadelphia's in a spot they have to move Embiid after this year. Now, the hardest part about that's going to be the contract. Embiid's under contract, I think, for the next 2 years. Then he has a player option, I guess that would be in 2029, I think that is. Okay, that's, and I think the cap hit is in excess of $60 million. It's going to be a hard contract to trade. Again, you could sell somebody the idea, hey, when he's on the floor, he's still a great player. He can still give you 30 and 10, but he's never available. Again, he's out this series because he had an appendectomy. Like, it's just, you feel bad for the guy after a while. This wasn't a basketball injury, but at some point, the best ability is availability, and he's not there more times than not for the Sixers. Build your future with those two, Maxey and Edgecombe. And I think also there's the element with Embiid. Moving him not only would kind of set okay, this is Maxey and Edgecombe's franchise, but also the style of play and the expectation of style of play over the course of an 82-game season would change drastically, because Embiid is a guy we talk about ball-dominant players. Embiid's extremely ball-dominant. Like, you give the ball to Embiid, it's pump fake, jab step, dribble, as Charles Barkley would say. It's not a lot of ball movement when Embiid's got the basketball, even when he's fully healthy and at his best. Now, more times than not, he's an elite offensive weapon, but it doesn't get the other guys involved in a level that, makes them at their best. I mean, I think Embiid this year was like number 6 in the NBA in usage rate. Like that's, doesn't help Maxey get better, doesn't help Edgecombe continue to develop and get better. I think you move Joel Embiid, Edgecombe and Maxey are the future of your franchise. You build around those two guys. And so, yeah, I still think Philadelphia's going to lose this series, all due respect to the Sixers. Boston, I still maintain, will win in this series in a gentleman's sweep in 5 games. But Philadelphia's got a bright future, and Edgecombe showed up and showed out in a major way. Another series we haven't got a chance to develop, or to not develop, but to do a whole segment on it, was the one that I said coming into the first round, from pure entertainment perspective, I was most excited for. Is, let's call what it is. It's a rivalry. By my personal definition of a rivalry, which for those wondering is there has to be multiple matchups of the two teams in the playoffs, and there has to be a give and take. There has to be a tug of war, push and pull. This is why I use example all the time. In the NBA, Warriors-Rockets, when it was Steph versus Harden, it was never a rivalry. The Warriors won 4 out of 4 series. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, it's not a rivalry. Josh Allen's 0-4 against Mahomes in the playoffs. It's not a rivalry. It's one-sided. This is a rivalry. Denver beat Minnesota in the first round 2023. Minnesota came back and ended Denver's repeat hopes in the second round in a Game 7 2024. So now you get the rubber match between these two. And Game 1, Denver hit some big shots late. Jamal Murray was great. Ant kind of struggled, didn't look like himself. Didn't quite look like himself in Game 2. I think he went 10 of 25 from the field. But the story of this series, and it tastes like poison coming out, probably not for me as much as my good friend Barry Grant Jr. at the All Even podcast. Check out his show. But it don't taste great coming out of my mouth. The story of this series thus far has been Rudy Gobert. A guy who I have, and we'll get to some of his comments after the game, which I found outrageous. But a guy who, to me, he has 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards, second most all time, and I don't think he deserved any of them. I've said for years, and I'll get into this later, it is a crime. Rudy Gobert has 4 DPOYs, and Draymond Green and Anthony Davis combined have 1. That's a basketball crime. This series, he's looked like a DPOY. Rudy Gobert is guarding a man that I believe, and I think it's not unanimous, but I think most basketball fans believe to be the best player on planet Earth in Nikola Jokic. And if you're considering the matchup and who he's going up against, if we have the numbers, he shut him down. Show what Gobert's done against Jokic in this series. Jokic against other T-Wolves, 13-20, dominating them. Against Gobert, 6 of 17, including the other night, 1 of 7 in the fourth quarter. So Rudy Gobert is looking like a defensive player of the year. Jokic looks frustrated. Jokic was inefficient in Game 2. Again, the physicality seemed to be bothering him. Jokic is somebody, it doesn't get a lot of play. I'm not sure why, but Jokic is somebody who, if he's struggling, on the rare nights where he's struggling, or if the physicality is kind of bothering him a little bit, he has a bit of a temper. I remember an incident, it was like 4.5, 5 years ago, where I think it was the Nuggets and the Heat, and there was a hard foul on Jokic, and Jokic ran and shoved, it was one of the Morris twins, and it gave him like whiplash, and he was out for the season. Like Jokic has a temper. And so if this continues, hey, watch out, Timberwolves, watch your backs, so this guy could like seriously injure you. And B, what does that do for the morale of the Nuggets in the sense of, yeah, even if they survive this series, which I think Denver's a great team. I don't think it's a given. Folks, are we just going to ignore the fact that Anthony Edwards, he beat Kevin Durant in a playoff series. He's already beaten Jokic in a playoff series, and that was when Denver was coming off their championship after 2023. He beat Luka Doncic and LeBron James in a series. Like, this guy's kind of the giant killer in the postseason. It's not like he's even been at his best, but this is a Minnesota T-Wolves team that's like, hey, we were the 6th seed last year. Nobody thought we were beating the Lakers. We gentlemen swept them. Again, they gentlemen swept the Warriors. Steph was out. Okay. But we've been to back-to-back conference finals. Last year, we got to the conference finals as the 6th seed. So there's kind of that confidence. Chris Finch is one of the more underrated coaches in the NBA. Ant hasn't even been that good. I think a lot of that's health-related. And it's a 1-1 series going back to Minnesota. Like, I picked Nuggets in 6. They were like a strong favorite to beat the T-Wolves because Minnesota's the 6th seed. Ant isn't healthy, fully healthy at least. Denver won 12 straight to end the regular season. Jokic is an MVP candidate. But styles make fights is what they say, right? And again, Rudy Gobert done his job. Now, does feel like because of all this discussion about, hey, Rudy's kind of clamping Jokic, it feels like Jokic is in for like a 35, 15, and 14 game in game 3 in Minnesota, which I believe is tomorrow night. That game's in Minnesota, 9:30 Eastern. Denver is a road favorite, by the way, of 2.5. This is what Rudy Gobert had to say about guarding Jokic after the game. Take a listen to Rudy.
3 or 4 times in the clutch when Jokic was trying to go one-on-one with you and wasn't successful. What were you seeing in that? How were you able to make?
I was lucky. I'm not a top 3 defender. Cannot do that. So I was lucky.
Okay, he was being very sarcastic there. For those who maybe didn't hear it, he said the question was about how the job he's doing on Jokic and him missing in the fourth quarter, and Rudy's like, "Yeah, I was lucky." But not basically, he said, "I'm not one of the top 3 defensive players of the league, so I was just lucky." He's being sarcastic because Rudy, right before that, referenced the fact that he wasn't a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. It was, and it was obviously Wemby who won unanimously. It was Chet Holmgren, and I'm forgetting who number 3 was. It's not registering right now in my mind. And Rudy's mindset is, should have been one of the finals, at the very least. So here's the thing. As I referenced earlier, Rudy, you've won the award 4 times. And I'm not one of those people, hey, you've won a certain amount of times, can't win anymore. I think like voter fatigue, for example. I think it's the reason Jordan doesn't have more than 5 MVPs. The reason LeBron does that. I mean, LeBron James' last MVP came in 2013. Like, so was he not the best player in the league any other year after that? Yeah, of course he was. Voter fatigue, it's a real thing, and it's ridiculous. So if Rudy Gobert was the best defensive player in the league this year, had he been, give him the award. 4 separate occasions. I believe, and I think most basketball fans and players believe, was not the best defender in the NBA. Got the award 4 times. Second most in NBA history. I want to reference this again. Draymond Green is the greatest defender of his generation. Anthony Davis is probably right behind him. They have a combined 1 DPOY. Draymond got 1 in 2017. Anthony Davis has never gotten it. Rudy Gobert is the same guy. And again, I gave Rudy credit for the job he's done in Jokic. He's A+ defense. Rudy Gobert is the same guy in his years in Utah, in his first couple of years in Minnesota. I mean, it used to be just like a playoff tradition unlike any other. Get Rudy out in the perimeter and he's cooked. No greater example of that. Game 2, 2024 Western Conference Finals in Minnesota. Luka Doncic gets Rudy Gobert in a switch. Barbecue chicken alert, as Shaquille O'Neal would say. Breaks him down off the dribble, breaks his ankles, hits the game-winning jumper, screaming God knows what to Rudy as he runs up the floor, and Dallas goes up 2-0, and they end up winning the series. Get Rudy in the perimeter, and it's over. And I still think to a degree that's true. It's hard for me to say this guy has again, you're not going to stop the great players again. He's kind of stopping Jokic to his credit. But in previous years, it's hard for me to say, hey, this guy, great rim protector, shaky wing defender. If you have this big, exposable hole in your game defensively, it's hard for me to say, yep, and he's the best defender in the NBA. Doesn't seem like Draymond doesn't really, peak Draymond really didn't have a hole defensively. He could guard your center, he could guard your point guard. Anthony Davis, he can guard the perimeter and he's elite shot, or rim protector. Same thing with Victor Wembanyama, who was unanimous DPOY as he should have been. By far and away the best defensive player in the league. And so Rudy crying foul is a bit rich because the voters, Rudy, for years have been quite generous to you, despite your defensive shortcomings, particularly in the big moments of the playoffs. Now, to your credit, doing a heck of a job on Jokic. But again, as Mark Jackson says all the time, great offense beats great defense any day of the week. It feels like we are on the precipice, maybe as soon as tomorrow night in Minneapolis, of Nikola Jokic going for 35, 15, and 14. Like, I'm telling you, it's on the board. Like, I think Jokic has heard the talk. It's a 1-1 series. Oh, could Minnesota win this? And Jokic just shuts everybody up. Yeah, watch me be the best player in the world on the road and shut up this Minnesota crowd. That said, Minnesota's got a shot, to, like a true shot. I'd say I'm going to give the Timberwolves like a 35% chance, 65-35 in favor of Denver. But that ain't darn sure ain't nothing. It's a 1-in-3 chance, basically, of winning the series. I don't know. Could be interesting. Before we go to break, and then mock draft 5.0, my last mock draft on the other side of the break. Super duper excited about that. Recap of the other playoff games that we didn't devote whole segments to on this show since Monday's show. So we talked about all of the games from last night. So Monday night, Cavs beat the Raptors. Again, it's to me, the least interesting series with all due respect. Actually, second least interesting series, unless you're just yeah, it's the least interesting series just because I want to watch Dylan Brooks' team get absolutely, mush faced by Oklahoma City, which they're going to tonight, by the way. Cavs are up 2-1 in the series. Harden's playing well. Donovan Mitchell's playing really well in this series. The James Harden game's coming in the second round. It always comes second round or conference finals, but it's coming. Hawks beat the Knicks. We already talked about T-Wolves and Nuggets. Hawks beat the Knicks 107-106, made a big-time fourth quarter comeback. Here's what I'll say about that. First of all, CJ McCollum, we didn't make a graphic for him. We probably should have. But CJ McCollum in this game, 32 points, 12 of 22 from the field in this game. So I picked Knicks in 6, sticking by that. Atlanta's a good team. They finished the regular season strong. And maybe I'm giving him too much of a pass there because there's a chance he might be my team's head coach next year, Mike Brown. And I like Mike Brown, by the way. If the Warriors, if Steve Kerr does retire, which I think he's going to, and Mike Brown's a coach, I'm not mad. Mike Brown did a heck of a job as an assistant. He filled in for Steve Kerr, and a lot of those years did a great job. I'd have no problem with that. I've always been higher on Mike Brown than most. He took the Kings to the playoffs, for crying out loud. I'm not loving the criticism towards Mike Brown right now in the sense of, hey, why didn't you play Jalen Brunson more? Why is he on the bench? Could you make the case on the bench too long? Sure. But wasn't the whole thing that I think I was as loud as anybody who's not a Knicks fan? Man, Tibbs was running his guys into the ground. Brunson, Hart, Cat, Anunoby, Bridges, just run them to the ground. Playing 6 at the most 7 players, real minutes. And his guys are freaking gassed by the end of series. Like, that's been the Tibbs way. Going back to Chicago and, briefly Minnesota, and now with previously, with the Knicks, like that, guys just kind of ran out of gas. It was a war of attrition. The Knicks tend to lose that war. So you bring Mike Brown in, who, even despite the Knicks not having the best bench, is much more judicious with Brunson's minutes, understanding, hey, it's game 2 of the first round. We have championship aspirations. Hey, other Knicks, go get the job done, especially at home at MSG when we've got a big lead in the second half. Like, go win the game. If you want to say they got Brunson out of his rhythm, if you want to say, hey, Mike Brown structure the minutes over the course of 4 quarters in a way that helps Brunson be at his best in the fourth, okay. If you want to make the case that Brunson was kind of, which he wasn't that great all night long, but if you want to say he was, came in the game cold and never could get it going in the fourth, okay. But if the argument is he's not playing enough minutes, you crushed him. I crushed Tibbs for playing him too many minutes. So I think, again, I'm defending Mike Brown the way that I've defended Steve Kerr. Like, oh, Steve, why aren't you playing Steph more minutes? Because we don't want him to be gassed by the end of the series. And more times than not, that's worked for Coach Kerr. I think Mike Brown is applying that same logic, and I completely agree with him 100%. Again, I think it's a 6-game series. Some people had 7, which I think would be interesting. If you see the Knicks at MSG Game 7 first round, the pressure. I'd pick the Knicks, but it would be interesting. Game 3, by the way, tomorrow night. Atlanta is a slight home favorite, -1.5. So let me just go and pick those games super fast. Then we'll go to break and do mock draft 5.0. So tomorrow night, which I'll be monitoring somewhat closely. Again, a lot of NFL draft coverage. I'll probably watch the full game highlights later that night or the next day. Knicks Hawks is at 7 o'clock Eastern tomorrow night. Amazon Prime. All the games are on Prime tomorrow night. Hawks are a 1.5-point favorite at home. I will go with the Knicks to win a very close game. I can see this being like a game-winning shot in the final 10 seconds type of situation. I'm going to say Mikal Bridges hits a game-winning 3 to win it for the Knicks with like 5 seconds left. They've been a great clutch team over the last few years. But the vibe in Atlanta's going to be great. We know when the Hawks are pretty good, the city shows out for their squad. But I think Knicks win close at home. Cavs-Raptors game 3. I'm going to go with the Cavs. They're 2.5-point favorites. Listen, if Toronto, I could see them responding. I had Cavs in 6. It feels more like Cavs in 5. So I'll go Cleveland in game 3. Nuggets, T-Wolves. I'm going Denver again. I think, as we just discussed, the it's a true narrative, but the narrative like, hey, Rudy is shutting down Nikola Jokic. I think Jokic is hearing that like, okay, let Minnesota. I got some for y'all tomorrow night. So I'll go with the Nuggets. And then Friday night, again, we'll pick those games. Oh, as for tonight, I forgot about tonight's games, probably because I think they'll both be blowouts. Pistons are 8.5-point favorites over the Orlando Magic tonight. I think the Pistons win comfortably. Listen, they lost game one. As I said, there are concerns that I think will bite the Pistons in the butt in the future in the playoffs, be it the second round, conference finals, the lack of a second guy outside of Cade who can get their own shot offensively. They go through these long sort of rough offensive spurts. I don't think it's going to hurt him tonight. The Magic feels like as fragile a locker room as that is, I think there's the mindset, hey, we got our split. Sure, we could get greedy, get another one. The Pistons have, after all, lost 11 straight home games in the playoffs. I think that streak ends tonight. We see all the time, a higher seed loses a game they shouldn't have, especially to like a 7 or 8 seed in game one, and then they come back in game two at home and just blow the doors off them. I could see that being a similar situation. So I think the Pistons win big tonight. And the Thunder are 17.5-point favorites against the Phoenix Suns. 17.5 is a lot. I mean, this could be a situation where they're blowing them out by 3, and then the Suns' backups come in, and the Thunder win by like 13. I would probably stay away from it. OKC wins game 2. I picked them in a sweep. I think the Thunder will sweep their way to the conference finals, and then Denver and San Antonio could give them problems. Yeah, 17.5 is a little too rich. That's tough because the game could be decided by midway through the third, and Shea sitting on the bench, and Jalen Williams and Shep. But then the backups come in, although OKC's backups are pretty good, and make it interesting. OKC lets their foot off the gas. So recap: Pistons big, Thunder big tonight, and then tomorrow night, Knicks close, Cavs pretty comfortably over the Raptors. And then I'll say Nuggets are 2.5-point favorites. I'll say they cover. So I'll say Denver covers. They win by 6 or so. Jokic has a big game, big bounce back game, and the Nuggets go up 2-1 rather in that series. But coming up next after the break, we've been doing it over the last month or so. This will be the final edition of it. Mock draft on Carving Up Live. This one 5.0. This is the one that I want you guys to hold me to. This exactly is how I think the draft is going to play itself out. We'll get to that in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Appreciate everybody for stopping by on a Wednesday. Once again, big announcement. Tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific time, live on the Grid Network, as well as on the Carving It Up YouTube channel. The Grid Network Live Draft Reaction Show 2026 starts tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific time. We'll be live on YouTube, X, Instagram, Twitch, hopefully on TikTok as well. We'll try and be able to make that happen for the first time. Grid Network 2026 live draft reaction show. Myself, Mike Guido, we could have some other guests on that show as well. We'll react to each and every pick of tomorrow night's first round of the NFL draft. And then we'll also be back on Friday at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific time to recap and react to, live react to rounds 2 and 3. So super excited about that. Again, I've said it throughout the show. It is one of my favorite nights. It is one of my favorite weeks of the entire sports calendar year, especially, again, from an entertainment perspective as a sports fan, but also from a perspective of the content creator. You get to interact with people in the chat and live as the picks are being made. It's an absolute blast. We highly recommend you guys tune into the show. We have a blast doing it each and every year. We'll create the link to that live stream tonight and then send it to your friends, to your family. Personally, I'm a little biased, but I think we have some of the best live draft coverage, NFL and NBA draft, which is coming up, obviously, the NBA in a couple of months. A great NBA draft for 2026, so very excited about that. On that note, we've been doing Mock Draft Wednesday for the last month, and we didn't do one last week, but this is the last one. 5.0, judge me by this one. If I'm on the money, if I'm dead wrong, somewhere in between, judge me for this one. So I want to say before we do the mock draft, in the previous 4, we have not done trades. That remains the case today. There have been trades in recent. There was a big trade, obviously, over the weekend featuring the Giants and the Bengals, where the Giants got Cincinnati's 10th overall pick. But no trades. This is going to be more about where I think this player is going to go. Obviously, barring something unforeseen, we're going to see trades tomorrow night. But where the players end up. So I don't think, for example, that with Dallas, there's a chance Dallas might trade up. The player Dallas gets at 12 may not be who Dallas gets at 5. I'm going to judge it based on where I think Dallas ends up picking somewhere in that area. Just to use an example, because the Cowboys obviously have 2 first-round picks. So the Jets, Browns, the Dolphins, other teams. So excited to get into that. So without further ado, mock draft 5.0. Here we go. Let's get into the first 4 picks of the draft. Probably the least amount of drama. Only one change from last week's mock draft. Fernando Mendoza goes number 1. Nothing needs to be said about that. We've known that for months now. I do have Arvell Reese going number 2 overall to the Jets. I think not enough is being made out of the fact that, David Bailey didn't visit with the Jets. That feels like if you're going to draft somebody with the 2nd pick, you might want to meet with them. David Bailey, who I think is going to end up, I think Arvell Reese is great. I think David Bailey's going to end up being the better NFL player, at least quicker. He's more pro-ready. He goes number 3 overall to the Arizona Cardinals, who desperately need some help off the edge. Jeremiah Love, every single mock draft, he's gone number 4 to the Tennessee Titans. That does not change. Cam Moore needs some help in the backfield. Jeremiah Love provides that. So Mendoza to the Raiders. Arvell Reese does go to the Jets. There's a lot of debate. Will it be him, David Bailey? I think it'll be Arvell Reese. David Bailey goes number 3 to the Cardinals, and Jeremiah Love number 4 to the Tennessee Titans. Here's where it starts to get a little interesting. I have Caleb Downs going number 5 overall. That's the highest I've had Caleb Downs mocked. Number 5 overall to the New York Giants. I've had the Giants taking an offensive lineman for the last few mock drafts, but now the fact that they have 2 of the top 10 picks, they can go best player on the board. And given that this is such a deep tackle draft, they can be able to go with somebody else who, maybe hasn't been selected or has been selected, at number 10. So Caleb Downs, by far the best safety in this draft. He would help the Giants secondary tremendously. He would go number 5 to New York. Carnell Tate goes number 6 overall to the Browns, who desperately, again, Cleveland's got 2 first-round picks. They desperately need wide receiver help. Carnell Tate, to me, is the best receiver in this draft. Jordan Tyson, this is the highest I've had him mocked in this draft. I think I had him 16th a couple weeks ago to the Jets. He goes number 7 overall to the Washington Commanders. Big-bodied receiver, kind of a stylistically different from Terry McLaurin, who I checked today. Terry McLaurin's 31 years old, which is kind of shocking. It feels like he's not that old yet. So Jordan Tyson, younger player, be able to help Jaden Daniels. They need some weapons. Washington really doesn't have any other elite offensive skill position players outside of Scary Terry. Jordan Tyson, who a lot of scouts really like, goes 7 to Washington. I debated on whether to go 3 straight receivers in this draft. I think that very well could happen. Taking another wide receiver opposite Chris Olave could work for the New Orleans Saints. Let's see what Tyler Shuck's got. But I think Ruben Bain, I know a lot's been made about the arm length thing. I understand that. Ruben Bain, to me, is the best overall pass rusher in this draft. Saints could use some help off the edge, especially with no Cam Jordan at this point. Ruben Bain goes number 8 overall to the New Orleans Saints. Next 4 draft picks. Sonny Styles goes number 9 overall to the Chiefs. I've had Ruben Bain mocked to the Chiefs the last couple of times, but now with him off the board, KC does need to address their defense. And they go Sonny Styles, number 9 overall. Casey's never been that great at linebacker outside of Nick Bolton. Sonny Styles, second best linebacker in this draft. He goes to the Chiefs. Spencer Fano. I have Spencer Fano at 10 and then Francis Mauigoa at 11 to the Dolphins. Spencer Fano at 10 to the New York Giants. I've had them taking Mauigoa in the last few mock drafts at number 5, given the fact, Giants now have 2 first-round picks in the top 10, but also reading reports, hey, Mauigoa, according to Adam Schefter, has like a herniated disc issue. What is the one stadium in the National Football League that you worry about with injuries? It's MetLife. So it's like, do you want this kid playing on that turf with the back issue? Spencer Fano's the safer pick. Let's protect Jackson Dart. So We help our defense, and we get Jackson Dart some protection up front. I've seen a lot of people saying they should go receiver or take Jeremiah Love at number 5 if he's available to give Jackson Dart some offensive help. This is a really good receiver draft. Most drafts are pretty good at that position. We can get Jackson Dart some help on that side of the ball later in this draft. Spencer Fano, number 10 to the Giants. Francis Mauigoa to the Dolphins. He stays in the city of Miami, going from the Hurricanes to the Dolphins. Let's get some help for Malik Willis or whoever our franchise quarterback is going to be. We don't want Malik Willis to have too miserable of a year in 2026. And Matt Delane to the Dallas Cowboys at number 12. I had in the first, I think, 2 or 3 mock drafts, then taking my man Jermon McCoy out of Tennessee. Matt Delane is probably the best overall corner in this draft. I think you can make the case McCoy's better, but again, there's a lot of trepidation as it relates to his knee injury. He missed all of last season for my Vols. Delaney Dallas desperately needs help in the secondary. They decided to address that at number 12 overall. Next 4 picks. I had this in last week's mock draft. Kenyon Sadiq goes to the Los Angeles Rams. By the way, who have a new logo. Not crazy about it. It's fine. Kenyon Sadiq goes number 13 overall to the Rams. Again, LA's in a position now that they addressed their secondary in free agency. So they're fine in that regard. That was the weakness of their team a year ago. They're now in a spot where it's, hey, we can kind of draft best player on the board. We are in Super Bowl or bust. Win now. This could be Stafford's last year. And what better than to do for Matthew Stafford for what could be his last year coming off in the MVP campaign than to get him yet another weapon? A lot of draft prospects feel like Sadiq was underused at Oregon. He goes 13 overall. You pair him with Devontae Adams. We'll see what happens with the Puka Nacua situation. Assuming he's on the field, that is a scary, scary pass-catching trio. And he got Kyron Williams in the backfield. Matt Stafford's life is going to be an absolute breeze in 2026 should they make that pick. Eyeing the guard out of Penn State goes number 14 overall to the Baltimore Ravens. They desperately need help up front, especially in the interior of their offensive line. Running the footballs, it's key to this Baltimore offense with Derrick Henry and making sure, I don't care how athletic Lamar Jackson is, this goes for any quarterback in the NFL, regardless of athleticism. The last place you want to face pressure in the pocket, up the middle. And with the losses of some of their interior linemen, being able to get by far the best guard in this draft out of Penn State, I think is a smart pick for the Ravens. Jermon McCoy does go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at number 15. It's a risky pick just in the sense that, hey, Todd Bowles, hot seat. He's a defensive coach. Bucs defense wasn't that good. You draft a defensive player, but a guy who has injury concerns. I don't think the knee is going to be a problem. The more you read, again, as a Vols fan, it was frustrating because it's like, is he going to be back? I think he was trying to play conservatively for the NFL. Completely understand that. To me, he's the best overall corner in this draft. Not ridiculously athletic, but a ball hawk. Is good in man-to-man coverage one-on-one. Jermon McCoy goes number 15 overall to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mekhi Lemon, Jets desperately need some playmakers on the opposite side. I've seen people saying that they should take another defensive player in the spot. Again, you could... If you aren't Aaron Glenn, you could double and triple down on your side of the ball. Jets need playmakers, man. Outside of Garrett Wilson, they got nothing. Mekhi Lemon is a big-time playmaker. He goes to New York at number 16 overall. I don't think Geno Smith's taking him to the promised land with Garrett Wilson, Mekhi Lemon, but the offense should be somewhat better than it was in 2025 when it was utterly atrocious. So Mekhi Lemon, receiver out of USC, going to the Jets. Next 4 draft picks, number 17 overall. It feels like this will be one of the least shocking first-round picks, really the next 2, to be frank. Monroe Freeling, offensive tackle out of Georgia. To me, he's the best, or I should say second-best tackle in this draft. To Mauigoa, again, it feels like a Dan Campbell pick. And the Lions went from, hey, the best offensive line to, due to some retirements and injuries, it's Penei Sewell, and that's it. So being able to get a true elite left tackle opposite Penei Sewell to protect Jared Goff is going to be key. As much as I like Jared Goff, the book's out on him. If he deals with pressure in any way, shape, or form, up the middle, off the edges, he is a shell of himself. Let's bring in that big offensive tackle from Georgia to help that. Again, it's a pipe dream for me that he falls to number 21 to my Pittsburgh Steelers because we need tackle help, but I think he goes 17 overall to Detroit. Dylan Thieneman, the safety out of Oregon. Again, it feels like every mock draft you see has him going 18th overall to the Vikings. Feels like that's where they're going to go. Harrison Smith either retiring or maybe the Vikings bring him back and it's his last year. The heir apparent, we understand that this is a team that is really well coached on the defensive side of the ball with Brian Flores. Let's just add to that. The one somewhat weakness of this defense is safety. By far the best safety in this draft. Hard-hitting player. He goes number 18 overall to the Vikings. Omar Cooper Jr., I really struggled at number 19 with what to do with Carolina based on the first 18 picks went before them. This could be a situation where the Panthers trade back, get more picks. We'll see what they do. But I think at this point, listen, Bryce Young, this is, I guess, going to be year 4 for Bryce. Let's give him as many weapons as possible. We got him Ted McMillan last year. We like some of the skill position players that we have. And we like our offensive line, by the way, which has gotten better over the last couple of years under Dave Canales in Carolina. Let's get him another receiver. Omar Cooper Jr. is kind of the opposite of Ted McMillan, who's much more of a big body guy. Omar Cooper can work out of the slot. He's fast, good route runner. He would work well with Bryce Young last year of his rookie year prior to potentially getting the fifth-year option. Omar Cooper goes 19th overall to the Panthers. Dallas gets their edge rusher, Akeem Mesidor, the edge out of Miami. He goes 20th overall. It feels like Dallas would consider a really good night, and we'll see what they do, potentially trading up. I did see Peter Schrager, who's one of the best in the business, say, hey, they could trade up and get David Bailey at number 3 overall. I don't know if the Cardinals would do that. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't, depending on what the offer is. But I think Dallas would consider it a good night if we got our corner and we got our pass rusher in the first round. They desperately need both. Akeem Mesidor, to me, is the best pass rusher on the board at this point. He goes to the Cowboys at number 20. Number 21, my Steelers go with Caden Proctor, the big offensive tackle, ridiculously athletic for his size out of Alabama. Good in pass pro, can get out in the run game the whole bit. Like, this is Mike McCarthy, to his credit, is really good at two things offensively. Developing quarterbacks. People forget Aaron Rodgers was in year 2 when Mike McCarthy got to Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers obviously didn't start in 2008, so he had 2 years under McCarthy to develop. Obviously, we understand the kind of career that Aaron Rodgers has had. Caden Proctor now in Pittsburgh. Steelers desperately need help at tackle, even before the news of Broderick Jones. Again, I'm hoping Monroe Freeling falls to 21. I don't think it'll happen. Caden Proctor, then, to me, is the best tackle on the board at this point. I love his upside. He goes 21 to my Steelers to protect. I assume Will Howard. I hope it's not going to be Aaron Rodgers, but we'll see what happens. Denzel Boston. I'm sorry, I got jumped one. TJ Parker, edge out of Clemson, goes to the Chargers. Again, Khalil Mack came back, but he's going into year 13. He's getting older. They already lost Joey Bosa a year ago, so the Chargers need help on the edges. TJ Parker out of Clemson fills that hole. Denzel Boston, number 23 overall to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think we've all seen the news over the last few days. It barring something crazy, after June 1st, A.J. Brown's going to be a Patriot, which it feels like the writing's been on the wall for that for months. So for Philadelphia, okay, we like Devontae Smith. We brought in Hollywood Brown. Like, we like our pieces. They brought in Dontavian Wicks from the Packers. It's a nice receiving core. Devontae Smith for years has been one of the best number 2 receivers. If he can be your 1 and Denzel Boston can step in and be your 2, Philadelphia's in good shape. New offensive play caller for Jalen Hurts, again, I should say. So I think this would be a good pick for Philadelphia. I've seen some mock drafts have them take a tackle to replace Lane Johnson. I think they wait a year from now to make that pick. They want to make sure that Jalen Hurts is in the best position to succeed. I think a receiver in the here and now, if Lane Johnson's healthy, helps them with that, with that goal. Caleb Lomu, tackle out of Utah, goes number 24 to the Browns. The Browns have to take a tackle in the first round of this draft. We know historically the best offensive linemen tend to go in the first round. And Shedeur Sanders, Joe Flacco, Gabriel, potentially Deshaun Watson coming back this year, running for their lives. The Browns O-line has been one of the worst in the NFL. Draft Caleb Lomu, number 24 overall. So if you could get Carnell Tate and get Caleb Lomu, Browns offense gets quite a bit better going into 2026. Next 4 draft picks. Keldrick Faulk goes to the Chicago Bears at number 25 overall. They desperately need help on the edges. Chicago needs a lot of help defensively in this draft. I think they'll address that side of the ball. Keldrick Faulk, 25th overall to them. Again, this is a spot I wouldn't be shocked if the Bills took Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. I think they decided to go C.J. Allen, who I'm really, really high on out of Georgia. One of the more underrated linebackers in this draft. C.J. Allen goes to the Bills. They've had a lot of injuries at linebacker the last few years. This, to me, would fill that hole for Buffalo on defense. And then Emmanuel McNeil-Warren does go number 27 overall to the San Francisco 49ers. I've had San Francisco drafting a tackle if a good enough one were available, if it wasn't enough of a reach in the last few mock drafts. But now Trent Williams signs that extension. At the very least, you've got Trent Williams for this year. I think it's a situation like Philly where you probably plan to get your heir apparent to a Hall of Famer a year from now in 2027. Let's fix the back end of our defense, which wasn't very good a year ago. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, best safety available at this point, goes to San Francisco. And Blake Miller, Blake Miller tends to be, it would appear, one of the more polarizing players in the draft. Like, you got some folks who are like, hey, we love his technique. Others that don't love his upside. Here's the fact of the matter for the Texans. They need help up front in terms of their offensive line. CJ Stroud's going into year 4. He had a great rookie season, took a step back in year 2, took a bigger step back in year 3, and the CJ Stroud defenders would say he hasn't had any protection. And there's a level of that does have some truth to it. Let's get Blake Miller, the tackle out of Clemson, 28th overall. Again, the Texans, maybe they trade up to get one of the better tackles this draft. They have to go tackle in the first round of this NFL draft. And then the final 4 picks, Colton Hood, my man out of Tennessee, goes number 29 overall to the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, Kansas City suffered a lot of losses in that secondary this offseason. They've had a good history of drafting defensive backs. They continue that. I love Colton Hood's upside. Playmaker, the whole bit, hard-hitting defensive back. He goes to Kansas City at 29. KC Concepcion, the wide receiver out of Texas A&M, he goes to the Miami Dolphins. Again, I understand that it's a defensive coaching staff in Miami, but you want to set yourself up. You want to set Malik Willis up where either he can be successful this year to a point where you buy into him as your long-term option, or you've got your tackle, Francis Moagoa, who I think is going to go 11th overall to the Miami, and then KC Concepcion at number 30 as your wide receiver after you've already traded Jalen Waddle. This was the pick that went to Denver for Jalen Waddle. You get a wide receiver in his replacement. A lot of draft evaluators like this kid. He goes number 30. Again, this would be a little bit of a project to a certain degree. Max Ianachor, the offensive tackle out of Arizona State, going 31st overall to the Patriots. They need some tackle help opposite, Will Campbell. Listen, this kid has not been playing football very, very long, but draft evaluators love his upside, his size, the whole bit. I think Mike Vrabel and the Patriots take a chance on him at number 31. And then Zion Young goes number 32 overall to the Seattle Seahawks. They could use some help on the edges after what they lost in free agency. So that's my mock draft 5.0. Again, no trades in this mock draft, but based on potential moves, this is where I think going to be the closest version of what we end up getting tomorrow night in the first round of the draft. So very, very, very excited about that. With that being said, I guess before we wrap up the show, in lieu of that mock draft 5.0, again, I cannot say it enough. Check out tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific time, the Grid Network NFL Draft live reaction show. Tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific time. It'll be myself. It'll be Mike Guido, potentially other guests joining us throughout the course of the evening. Live at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. We'll be live on YouTube, on X, on Twitch, on Instagram, potentially on TikTok as well. So be on the lookout for that. It is, again, I cannot emphasize this enough, one of my favorite nights of the year, one of my favorite shows to do of the year. Great conversation, engaging in the chat. Let us know what you think about each and every draft pick, what you think your team should do. It is going to be a blast of a night. Cannot wait for it tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific time. And we'll also be live on Friday at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific time to discuss rounds 2 and 3. So it's going to be a blast. As for this show, we'll be back on Friday at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific time. Same places as usual, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, X, and on Instagram. I mean, it's just it's a boatload of sports. Like, what more could you want? You got NBA playoffs getting spicy. You got the NFL draft coming up. It's a blast. Only thing that's not a blast is how the Red Sox offense looks, which is putrid. But I don't want to end this show on a poor note. Red Sox get me in a bad mood this year. They really, really do. With that, that's all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody for stopping by as always. Again, check out the Grid Network 2026 NFL Draft live reaction show tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific time, live on the Grid Network, as well as on my YouTube channel, Carving It Up with Bryson Carver. We'll be live on YouTube, on Twitch, on X, on Instagram, potentially on TikTok as well. It's going to be a blast of a night. We greatly appreciate it if you showed up. Engage in the chat. Tell your friends and family about it. It's going to be a fun night. Hope everybody has a great evening. We'll see y'all tomorrow night on the Grid's 2026 NFL Draft live reaction show. Have a great evening. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. And Pittsburgh, have fun at the draft, but don't sign Aaron Rodgers, dang it. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.